I don't think you've got the mood of the nation here, though, because of the fact that I think that we might have 10,000 people that come here who are all wonderful. 9,999 of them might be absolutely wonderful. If one of them has ill intent, I think the British public would say we don't want all 10,000.
Without democratic consent, you don't get to say you have obligations. Britain is a state. A state has borders. A state consults the people who make up its citizenry and asks them, what do you want to do? And that is the...
Hey everyone, welcome back to Julian Discourse. Before we dive in, please make sure to like and subscribe. Watch Reform UK Councillor Jamie Maciver and Telegraph editor Poppy Coburn completely tear apart Labour MP Barry Gardiner's defence of the UK's broken asylum system. Instead of defending the safety of British citizens, watch the Labour MP panic, deflect, and literally claim that the British public wants to continue taking in unvetted migrants. It perfectly exposes an out-of-touch political elite that completely ignores the demands of the public while prioritizing international treaties over national security. Watch this.
Go on, Poppy.
I'm going to have to fact-check a few of the things you've said here, Barry. I'm sorry about this. When people say we are getting the asylum backlog down, or we are going through the asylum backlog, you should not see that as a positive thing. What that actually means is decisions are being made to say, yes, it is incredibly difficult to deport people from the country because our definition of asylum, because of all the international treaties we have signed up to, is so broad that it includes all sorts of people that I think average British people would have no idea would even have a right to be in this country. So let's look at the case of the man who killed Rhiannon Skye Whyte. He was a man who arrived on a small boat just a few weeks earlier, and he was from Sudan. He can never be deported back to Sudan, and his asylum claim would have been valid. It would be a valid asylum claim. Now, the question is not, does the Home Secretary cherry-pick cases, as the Labour Party likes to do, they did it under Tony Blair too, to pretend that they're tough. The question is, will you change the broken system? Will you leave the ECHR? Will you exit the 1951 Refugee Convention? Because if you will not, the border is de facto open. Anyone who turns up in a small boat from this country will have to be processed, as you say, as an asylum seeker. And the majority of those people will have a valid asylum claim. And even if they don't, a lot of them can't be deported. So, that is why we have hundreds of thousands of people in this country now who most people in this country never wanted to be here in the first place, have been voted in every single election since I was born to not have them here in the first place, being completely powerless about who is in their country.
OK, let me go to Jamie next.
I agree. And one thing I will say is we in this conversation, we obviously get lost in talking about the boat numbers, which, by the way, we do have open borders, because the sheer fact that people take that risk and do that journey proves that they think they can get here. We don't hear much about the boats that are undetected. We don't hear much about the other ways in which people are breaking into Britain. When I was younger and I was at school, I remember my mum telling me about how she was on her way back from Lakeside, and out from the back of a lorry near Essex, a load of people just jumped off and ran into Britain. This is happening every single day. So the idea is just the boats. It is happening in lots of different ways. But the problem we've got in this country is we have a government that is a soft touch. Now, we can go on about how Labour have done a better job than the Tories on this. I agree. What the Tories did to this country in 14 years when it comes to the borders is an absolute disgrace. They must never, ever be forgiven for it. And I think that's why they don't want a general election, because we're never going to forgive them. But the reality here is we've got people breaking into Britain, and they are a danger to Britain, and they have proven that in their actions. It speaks volumes that the government doesn't see this as a priority. It is a national security emergency. These people need to be detected that are here, detained and deported. But we saw just this week in Shropshire how actually we've got a government quite prepared to see new builds go up to put people in these places. So fundamentally, there's an ideological problem. We have a socialist government that actually wants to welcome these people, but they know they're losing votes because of it, which is why they're pretending to talk tough, as Poppy has said. They're pretending to talk tough on immigration. The truth of the matter is they might as well stand in Dover and say welcome here, because that's how they're behaving.
I don't think you've got the mood of the nation here, though, because of the fact that I think that we might have 10,000 people that come here who are all wonderful. 9,999 of them might be absolutely wonderful. If one of them has ill intent, I think the British public would say we don't want all 10,000.
Without democratic consent, you don't get to say you have obligations. Britain is a state. A state has borders. A state consults the people who make up its citizenry and asks them, what do you want to do? And that is the foundation of law.
Yeah.
What irritates me about people who defend the asylum system on the grounds of procedure is that they haven't asked the public, do you agree with the system? Do you accept the system? Because as far as I can tell, every opportunity the public has gotten to give their voice on this, they have said, no,
Well,
I do not agree. I do not want this. I do not want people in hotels. I do not want people in HMOs. I do not want legal immigration to be higher. And they have been ignored by Labour. They have been ignored by the Conservatives. If there's another government, I'm sure they'll try and ignore them.
Well,
Brief response, please, Barry. We're out of time.
I actually think that when you frame it in a way that says, do you want people who are a danger to come into your country? Are there people invading your country? Then you'll get the response that you expect and that you say, Poppy. But I think that if you say to people, if somebody is being persecuted, if they are fleeing for their lives...
Like English people in East London.
If they're fleeing for their lives, and that is proven to be the case, should we be a country that offers those people safe harbour?
No.
And actually, I think the vast majority of the British public will say, yes, we have international obligations.
All right.
And one of the worst things about the situation at the moment is that we've reduced the amount of international aid that we give that could stabilise some of the situations where people are now having to flee from.
All right, Barry, I'm going to have to leave it there, unfortunately, because we've run out of time. Quick one from you. Do you want them to stay in Britain, audience in the room? No. Would you like them to be deported?
Yes.
OK. There you have it.
Welcome back to reality. Imagine telling your security guard that someone just broke into your house and instead of removing the intruder, they lecture you on the compassion of letting strangers sleep in your living room. That is exactly what it feels like listening to the political establishment defend the UK's entirely broken borders. What you just watched is the real-time exposure of a deeply insulated political elite. When confronted with the terrifying reality that an ISIS terrorist crossed the English Channel on a small boat and was put up in a taxpayer-funded hotel, Labour MP Barry Gardiner didn't apologize. He didn't admit the system is a catastrophic failure. Instead, he boasted that the government is simply processing people faster. Let's cut through the spin. Under outdated treaties like the 1951 Refugee Convention and the ECHR, asylum definitions have been stretched beyond recognition. When the government boasts about clearing the backlog, they largely aren't deporting people. They are simply rubber-stamping approvals because international treaties legally paralyze the state from sending them back. This isn't just bureaucratic inconvenience, it costs lives. Take the heartbreaking case of 27-year-old Rhiannon Skye Whyte, brutally murdered in Walsall. Her killer was a Sudanese asylum seeker. Because Sudan is classified as a conflict zone, he couldn't be deported. The establishment essentially prioritized international treaties over the physical safety of a young British woman. Notice the arrogance of the Labour MP. He tells frustrated citizens that the public wants to harbour unvetted migrants because of international obligations. The audience immediately booed him, and rightly so. Voters have spent a decade demanding secure borders, only to be completely ignored by Westminster. The political class is entirely insulated from the consequences of their policies. They don't live in working-class communities where budget hotels are commandeered for undocumented men. They demand your taxes, force you to endure plummeting social trust, and call you uncompassionate when you beg them to lock the front door. The public has completely had enough.